Welcome to the premiere edition of the Redneck Riviera.
There's a lot of people down here on the Mason-Dixon line talking about the Redneck Riviera. Cowboy boots on?
Oh, yeah?
Yell Pecker, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got to this here, the Redneck Riviera. This ain't no France, Paris Riviera thing. We're eating them snails and shit. So young, Mr. Charlie Banjo.
Yep. I come from the north so deep it's the south.
Okay.
I like to tell people that I come from the New Hampshire, Florida line because we're so far north we wrap around.
There you go. It's a beautiful thing, my brother from another mother. And
they say that you guys have mosquitoes that can carry off small children. Is that true?
That is absolutely correct.
And you have a beverage?
I have a beverage.
Don't make me drink alone, Steve.
Would you come to the Redneck Riviera to drink alone?
I would hope not.
All right. So, young Charlie Banjo, welcome to the Redneck Riviera.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions before we get to the musical part.
Gonna be music?
I don't know. I got somebody coming in to play.
Oh, good.
Yeah. What in the world possessed a man to go out and pick up a banjo?
Well, it's a prerequisite with someone with web fingers and toes. In most music stores, if you have and can prove that you have, in fact, genetic defects such as web fingers and toes, you generally get a 10 to 15% discount on any banjo in the whole store.
That is sweet. So here's another question for you, Dan. Now, how many times have you heard Deliverance jokes?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The movie Deliverance?
Yeah.
Banjo? Dueling banjos?
That boy was brilliant.
He is.
Yeah. I think he was on American Idol last year.
He probably was.
Yeah. Actually, Steve, the Deliverance theme song is actually the most downloaded banjo song of all time.
Is that the dueling banjos?
Yep.
So I got a kind of a different question, though. When people are watching Deliverance, there's always scenes that come up that everybody talks about. But I'd like to find out from you, a banjo player.
Yep.
A kid was playing banjo on the porch, and that guy come around, and he says, "Who's picking a banjo here?"
Yep.
Why was he so concerned about who was picking a banjo?
Because in bluegrass, the banjo is the most important instrument. Because there's no drummer in bluegrass. And oftentimes the bass will be holding the line, but it's the banjo who holds everything together in bluegrass.
So he needed to know.
Yep.
Right. So what possessed you to pick up the banjo, though? Just seriously.
To be honest, I always thought the banjo was cool. And the first thing I remember, Steve, was when we were kids and we were at Grammys or whatever, and we'd watch the second most famous banjo tune is actually the Beverly Hillbillies theme.
Yeah.
And so I always thought it was super cool. And then Dad would watch Hee Haw or whatever, and Roy Clark would come on, and it was just so lightning fast. And then, I always like older things, probably because Dad was older, right? So the banjo really appealed to me because no one plays it anymore. Jess plays guitar, and she's been playing for like 20 years. And Jess and I, since having kids, we didn't really have a whole lot to connect us, too much anymore aside from the kid, right? So I wanted something I could connect with my wife on.
Awesome.
And I already played guitar, and everybody in their uncle seems to play guitar. So I was like, well, it's either this or accordion. And I didn't want to get outplayed by a monkey. Banjo's cool. I always thought it was cool. And it's weird like me, like I always want to be like the weird guy. Like you never hear the banjo guy, right? So it appealed to me on that level too. So that's why I picked it.
Do you have the capability of playing a Beverly Hills theme song?
I have the capability. I just don't have the knowledge. So I never sat down and memorized it. What I've been working on, the Broadneck Bluegrass, is I've been working on what's called backup banjo. In a lot of ways, it's pretty easy. You're a guitarist, Steve, and so the rhythm guitar just holds the chords and keeps everybody in time. You want to keep it pretty steady. But a backup banjo player, it's pretty cool because all I have to do is boom chucks, which are where you pick and you just keep in time in the background. And then when the singer sings, you can noodle around. If you're sitting in C or G, let's just say G. you know, Pete Seeger and stuff in the 60s. The thumb would kind of hold the bass line. You only needed 2. Well, Earl's like, well, hell, I can count to 4, but 3, no one's ever done it before. And then when he came out with a thing called Earl's Breakdown, I think, or no, it's Foggy Mountain Breakdown. It actually, like, people freaked out because he was going so fast with 3 fingers. Nobody had ever heard anything like that before. And most of the banjo in the early 1900s to the 1940s, it was vaudeville. So you had guys like a guy named String Bean was real famous. It would always be accompanied with a joke, right? So it would always, and then we'd stop and they would tell a joke, and it was just part of the shtick, right? And then Earl Scruggs came along and did the 3-finger style, and it was like a Gatling gun. It just never stopped, you know? So there's two main schools, right? There's claw hammer, which is like this. That's old school. Like, they basically hit the bass note with the thumb and do this. I can't even do it. I don't know. So they're like doing that as they strum. Okay. I'm actually picking with thumb picks and finger picks. So here's a thumb pick like this, and then you have I use nickel because it's comfortable. If you don't use thumb picks, it's a different sound. So all you're doing, and one of the things I'm going to show you tonight is how to do a forward roll, because it actually translates to guitar really, really nicely. A good example of finger picking in the song is "Dust in the Wind." So that's finger picking on a guitar.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have finger picks on, it would sound like this. Not bad, right? But it's a little muffled. But once you put finger picks on, you get a lot more resonance, and you actually hit the notes way better. So most banjo guys will use the 3.
So without further ado, how about you pick a tune for us, and if you feel up to it?
Sure.
Then we can do a segment a little bit called Can't Teach Me Nothing, where you can try to teach me something.
Yeah, all right, let me see what I got here. Let's see. It's real hard for me to sing and play at the same time, so. I'm gonna try and move back so you can see my fingers. Anyway, so that's just me goofing around on the banjo, but what you saw right here is you saw for guitar, you're strumming, and that's the easier hand. And for guitarists, the left hand is the real challenge, right? Would you say that's true? Because you got to learn all those like really weird, contorted things. Yeah. And on the banjo, it's just the opposite. So what we're going to be learning today is a forward roll, which is really just picking with any pattern, anything that you repeat over and over in the same syntax or the same grouping is considered a roll pattern. So anything you do where it's thumb, index, middle finger, and what you want to do is you want to plant these 2 fingers here so they're stable. So you plant your fingers here. Doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do it and repeat it. And you do want to plant these fingers because that will give you good accuracy with your fingertips, right? Doesn't matter what you do. If you repeat it, it's going to sound good. Doesn't matter what it is. And then you can change it midway through. And with anything, I'm sure you discovered already, it doesn't matter what you play, as long as you're on time. So, like you could do the wrong chord. No one's going to notice if you're on time. So you always want to stay on time. So whatever you're picking, keep at it for a bit. But what we're going to be learning, you're going to plant these 2 fingers right here. And this is for any, you can do this with any stringed instrument. So you just plant the 2 fingers and you're going to use these 3 fingers. And essentially you're going to pick a home bass. So pick your bass string as your thumb, assign 1 string to your thumb, assign, I would recommend to start out wherever your index and your middle fingers just land naturally, those are the assigned strings. So this is called a forward roll, and a forward roll is anything you repeat where it goes thumb, index, middle, thumb, index, middle, thumb, index, middle. So thumb, index, middle. And you just want to keep your hand natural, and you want to plant these 2 fingers so your hand isn't wandering all over the place. So plant these 2, your pinky and your ring fingers, just set them right here. Yep. And all you want to do is just pick your 3 strings. Yep. Some people, yep, that sounds good. And you don't have to do both fingers, but plant 1. Make sure your pinky or your ring finger is down so you get active. And anything you repeat is going to be a good roll, as long as you do the same thing over and over. So let's hear you, Steve. Let's see how you do.
Is that a roll?
No, but that's a start. That's an intro, right? But that's how you get your timing. So whenever I lose timing with the banjo, I go back to doing what you do. So you don't have to go fast. So each measure is 8. It's either 4 or 8, right? You have a 4/4 timing. So to do this, you want to do for a full measure, you need to count 8. So obviously there's only 3 fingers, right? That's 3, 6, and then I just alternate thumb and middle, and then start again. That sounds really good. Yep. And that's all a forward roll is.
Well, it's a good way to play something that sounds like you know what you're doing.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it, right?
All right, fake it.
And then you can add the chording into it. So you just do the finger pick in the forward roll, and it could be any 3 that you want. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 for a 4 signature. And if you're like me, when you just you want to have a cocktail and just sit out on the porch and relax and chill out and not worry about doing anything but make music, finger picking is a great way to do that, because you can just zone out and find these different patterns. Yeah. So, and then there's the reverse roll, which is just the opposite. It goes middle finger, index finger, thumb. Right. And so 90% of banjo playing is done in GCD and uses one of those 2 rolls. And then you can play anything you want.
Okay.
So, all right, let's hear some finger picking, Dave. You got to pluck hard though, so we can hear you.
That's right. Wow. You know, this is called Can't Teach Me Nothing, right?
Can't teach me nothing. Yeah. And that's, now you know why guitarists have the toenails, because guitarists, like the Spanish guitarists, they all do finger picking. That's why they have those the creepy Coke nails, so it's easier to pluck, but you don't have to go fast. Yep. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
2, 3, 1, 2.
Whatever two you want. You don't even have to keep the same two. You can just do different ones.
All right. Well, I got something to poke around with.
Yep. And if you want to throw a chord on there to see what it sounds like.
Ah.
It's nice to play with. It's a real fun thing to mess around with and just get into your own zone for it. It takes 100 hours to learn picking. So interesting thing, little history on the banjo. This is actually a drum head. So I don't know if you could see this. This is actually a Remo drum head.
Okay.
So this is a drum on a popsicle stick, essentially. And the banjo comes from Northern Africa, as far as we can tell. So it came over with the slaves and the traders from North Africa. And it was originally a gourd, like a legit gourd. And hillbillies and rednecks and Irishmen added like a drum head. And there's some banjo techniques where you actually keep in time with the drum head. This is another reason that I love this. This is the quintessential American instrument. So you could say it's from North Africa, kind of like whiskey is from Ireland, right? So it may be from there, but we took it and made it, capital M American. And yeah, so this is bluegrass music is the music of the working class, and it doesn't have a color. So throughout bluegrass history, and country music really too, it's everybody put their piece in. You got the Irish, you can feel the Irish jig in there sometimes. You can feel the deep resonant tempo of Africa in bluegrass. It's a neat thing. So I like banjo because it's very American too.
Love it. Love it. It is definitely an American sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Which means it annoys a lot of other people, but we don't care.
You have a place to practice where your wife won't get annoyed with you, or?
Yeah. And they actually have silencers. There's a bridge here where the strings go over the head, and it's another reason it was very popular. Very easy to replicate. It's just honestly, it's a drum head with a guitar neck, and but there's this bridge here, and the vibrations from the strings go down through the neck and then resonate through the banjo head. Through the drum head. And to silence it, you actually have this little thing. It looks like the old timers used to use a clothespin. So they would put a clothespin on the bridge to muffle it.
Okay, cool.
So that's
could make for a happier home when you're practicing.
Well, it stops. It definitely doesn't. It improves the divorce rate among banjo pickers.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, young Mr. Colas, I'd like to leave you with a final question.
Yep.
When you started playing banjo, did you ever imagine that you would be featured on the Redneck Riviera?
I didn't dare hope.
Yeah.
I was hoping someday that I would end up in front of a Walmart playing for quarters, nickels, and dimes, but nowhere did I know that I would be featured on such a famous show. I don't know if it's famous in New Hampshire, but down here in the South, people love the Redneck Riviera. They have Boone's Farm happy hours where people watch, the Redneck Riviera. So it's an honor and a privilege to represent the unwashed masses who play the.
Thank you, young fella. All right, Charles. Hey, have a good night, and thanks for coming on.
See ya.
All right.